All right, once again joined by Mike Payton, A to Z Sports, the Detroit Lions, who now play in Panic City, USA, at least according to the fan base. Mike, it has certainly been an interesting week coming off the Lions' first loss in 92 days, but it's not the loss that people are panicked about. It's the injuries. And, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Aaron Glenn, you name it, you know, went center stage this week and kind of put those thoughts to bed. But in a fan base like it's as passionate as the Lions, they're nervous going forward. So let's just jump right into it. Should they be nervous? I mean, Aleem McNeil, Khalil Dorsey, Carlton Davis. A lot of guys went down in that Bills loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, some nervousness is warranted, but I feel like, and Aaron Glenn said it the best. Like, why is the sky falling for us? We're 12-2. Like, this team has been playing shorthanded all season long. I mean, this is nothing new. Ali McNeil didn't play against the Packers 2 weeks ago, and everybody freaked out about that, and they played really well. They won the game. Uh, I think that obviously they're gonna go through some defensive woes in the next few weeks, and they'll try to get things figured out. But they'll get some players back. Alex Anzalone should be back by the playoffs, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin just had his clock started, and Ifeatu Melifonwu is finally going to show up this season. There's a lot of hope for everything just being just fine. I think that this is a really well coached team. This is a defensively well coached team. I think Aaron Glenn has done an amazing job this year, and I think he's already netted himself a head coaching job. And I think he could write his own ticket if he can continue to coordinate this thing as well as he has been with all these guys missing. Obviously, it sucks to miss them, but I think that they're going to be just fine at the end of the day.
Yeah, let's start with the offense. Obviously, no David Montgomery on Sunday, no David Montgomery for the rest of the regular season. Some positive news this week, though, that they're not putting him in IR. He's not getting MCL surgery. Could be back at some point in the playoffs, but you have to get to that point that he would come back. Jahmyr Gibbs going to see a bit of a workload increase. Craig Reynolds, Sione Vaki. How do you see the running back room shaping out moving forward now with no Montgomery?
Yeah, I think this is Gibbs' chance to really, I mean, move ahead and show that he could be a number one running back, which we already, really know that he can be. He's already one of the best running backs in the league, I think, and is fifth in Pro Bowl votes in the entire league right now. So I think a lot of other people feel that same way. I think we'll see a lot of him and some Craig Reynolds and Sione Vaki mixed in. Maybe a little bit more Reynolds than Vaki at first, but I think that personally, I think Vaki is someone who can do a lot of the things that Montgomery can do. Maybe not as well, but it has that ability to kind of run through some guys, has some shiftiness to him at the same time. A really good runner and really showed that last year at Utah. And I thought that when they drafted him, we were going to maybe see him get worked into the offense more as the season progressed, but that has not happened. He's been a special teams player, and he's done really well at it. He actually leads all special team players in Pro Bowl votes right now. So he might be a Pro Bowler on the special teams end. But I think offensively, I'm really excited to see what they can do with him in both the run and the pass game. And we'll see
And
where that goes.
I don't think there should be a ton of concern with the offense. Obviously, losing a player like Montgomery hurts, but this offense has been so good. They were unbelievable again on Sunday. The defense is a different story. You're talking about a unit that first half of the season, we were on a streak, 10 quarters without a touchdown. Now going back to the second half on Thanksgiving against the Bears, they haven't looked great. Jordan Love, Josh Allen, you're going up against top tier talent here, but how concerned are you about this defense moving forward? A defense that's depleted injury wise and a defense that's given up a lot of points.
Yeah, I think, flat out, this is not going to be the defense that you were used to seeing in the middle of the season or the beginning of the season. This is going to be a weaker unit where they might allow more points than you're used to seeing. But I still think that, this team is all about getting turnovers. That's one of their big things. It's one of their huge focuses. They still have the guys on this team that get those turnovers in Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and some of the other guys, Amik Robertson. They still have a really good secondary set up, and I think they'll move Brian Branch over to that nickel corner and put Amik Robertson in Carlton Davis's spot, and I think you're going to see everything just be just fine there. Where they could struggle a little is pass rush, and Zadarius Smith has been fantastic since he got traded here. Unbelievable, actually, so good. But outside of him, Al-Quadin Muhammad and some of these other guys, Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Paschal, they need to really kind of step up and be on their A game for this final stretch, and that's a spot where they could struggle that and stopping the run. We saw them kind of get beat up a little bit last weekend. We'll hopefully they can kind of settle in and get better as the weeks go on and kind of learn. There's a lot of new guys on this team, so hopefully everybody can come together and learn everything and by playoff time.
So 3 games to go now in the regular season. How do you see this thing playing out? Because for a team that's 12-2, they could wind up being the 1 seed like we expected and have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They could maybe fall to the 2 seed and have to play in the first round. Or there's a scenario here where the Lions end up being the 5 and have to go on the road the entire playoffs because they're tied with the Vikings for first in the North. They have the tiebreaker, but winning the division at this point isn't as guaranteed as it maybe has felt for a majority of the season.
Yeah, I think, the good thing is, and obviously, we've kind of been down this road before with the Vikings, but they have 2 really tough games coming up against both the Seahawks and then the Packers. And the Seahawks or Packers can help the Lions out in any way. That's going to be just huge for them. That number 1 seed that's tough. This Bears team on the road. We saw what happened last year when the Lions had to go into the cold environment and try to win that game, and they weren't able to. We'll see what happens this year. And then, we got San Francisco next week, which all the injuries in the world, I don't think is going to stop that from being a revenge game. Like, I think that game has been circled all year long on their calendar for the Lions. And then you got the big one at the end of the year with the Vikings. So you got to at least win 2 of these games. I mean, that's the big thing. And you got to hope that the Vikings maybe lose one or at least come into that game where it could be, for the NFC Championship and number 1 seed, that Week 18 game could be just gigantic. So we'll see what happens, but the Lions need some favors, and they got to do themselves some favors.
And then 1 game at a time at this point, headed into Soldier Field this weekend. The Bears look a little bit different than 3 weeks ago when the Lions played them on Thanksgiving. They have a new head coach or an interim head coach. Seems like they've still gone the opposite way, even after making that coaching change. That game on Thanksgiving was very much a tale of 2 halves. You hope this weekend's game looks more like the first half of that game on Thanksgiving. But, what do you see from this Bears team between the last time we saw them on Thanksgiving to, the kind of mess that they are today?
Well, there's some real similarities. They have a lot of struggle scoring in the first half. I don't know if they have scored in the first half in the last few weeks. That's how bad it's been. That's where the Lions need to be much, much better than they were on Thanksgiving when they were at, I think, 1 for 5 in the first half. They need to score. They need to run this score up and just make it to the second half and turn this into a let's just run the clock out type game. And I think as we mentioned already, they have the offense to do that. They didn't lose anybody. They lost just one guy. It was an important guy, but they still have everyone left. Run that score up. Make sure that there was just, no questions to be answered in the second half when the Bears have statistically and historically in the last few weeks started to kind of get things together. So make sure that you can do that. Get after Caleb Williams. Don't let him get mobile on you, and they'll win this game.
Yeah, you hope that the Bears would have put up a better fight against the Vikings on Monday night, so hopefully they bring that same effort against the Lions. But is there anything in that second half from that Thanksgiving game where the Bears were arguably the better team that gives you any concern heading into Sunday? Obviously the Lions are you would think they're not going to let something like that happen again.
I look back at that game, and I know injuries have been a thing all year long, but that was kind of the game where like everybody started going out and they wind up, poaching a bunch of guys after that. And I think that had a lot to do with it. They suddenly lost, all their pass rush. Pascal went out. They were down to the studs in that game. And I think that played a really big role in it. And at least now you have some guys that you can go into this game that have been here for a few weeks, have been, know the playbook more, know what's expected more. You have the healthy Pascal and the healthy Ansarike this time, and I think that's going to make a big difference. But obviously, that mobility from Caleb Williams, we saw it in the game last weekend. He's hard to stop, and even if he doesn't complete the pass, like he's still getting them off. And that's where things can get tough. So you got to make sure that you close the pocket on him. Don't let him Josh Allen you, like we saw what Josh Allen did to the Lions, and you should be okay.
It's these guys, they hear the noise, whether it's from the questions in the media, social media, or what have you. How motivated do you think they are Sunday to go out and, put up a dominant effort and say, hey, we're still a good team. We've lost some guys, but we still have a really good product we can put on the field.
Yeah, I would, from the buzz around the team right now, I think all this stuff is motivating them as opposed to, where you could see it easily getting a team down and maybe people would say, yeah, the team would say, yeah, well, they're right. Like we don't have anybody. But this team wants to prove that they are still the team that we've seen all year. And we saw Dan Campbell come out and give a passionate speech on the radio the other day. We saw Aaron Glenn address this. We've seen the players and Jared Goff himself. There's nothing wrong. Everything's fine. We're going to be okay. And these are not just like empty sentiments that they're saying. This is how this team truly believes. They want to prove that they can get over this and that they're not just, done. And I got to say I agree with them. I don't think that this is just over. I think there's a lot more football left to be played and this team can continue to rally together and things can happen.
Words are words, but do you think they do it? Go out Sunday and kind of shut everybody up for the time being and take care of business with ease.
Yeah, I do. Weather was an issue last year, but we've seen them go out and they won that game in Green Bay in the pouring rain. This is going to be a cold game. Obviously, some of these guys are, like Terry and Arnold has never played in a game this cold. He's said that already. We've seen how cold he has been since he's got here on his TikTok. But yeah, this is going to play a factor in the game. It's outside. It's the last outdoor game of the year. I don't think that the Lions are going to struggle. I think they're going to get on the ground. They're going to do everything that they've been able to do all year, and I believe they'll win this game. And I'm gonna go with a 35-21 win for the Lions.
I know that would help ease the tension right now among the Lions fan base. Mike Payton, A to Z Sports. You can catch all his stuff there. And Mike, we'll catch up with you before a game that's going to bring up some memories for the Lions head out to San Francisco.